of these things relate to Eurovision, and that's what our podcast is on today. Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Of God in Mind podcast, which I will come up with a flashy name for at some point. With me here today, we have Adam,
G'day, folks.
Reggie,
Hola!
and Jacob.
G'day.
And Joel may drop in later, we'll see. But today we are discussing Eurovision and just in general random European topics. Because Reggie's the only one of us who knows stuff about Eurovision. So Reggie,
Yes,
regale
I-
us with tales about Eurovision.
Yeah, I would say I'm a self-proclaimed Eurovision expert.
Can confirm.
Yes, so Eurovision starts in less than 12 hours, and it's been an exciting year. I guess the biggest thing that pops out, like the most controversial thing, is the whole Ukraine versus Russia controversy. So last year, Russia, like before the competition, Russia was actually the favorite to win. And it's hard to pick out favorite songs in the performances. And Ukraine entered the competition with the song 1944. Now, one of the biggest rules of Eurovision is that you can't have any openly or outwardly political songs. And there have been countries banned for that. So in 2009, Russia invaded Georgia, and Georgia tried to enter the Eurovision Song Contest with a disco song called We Don't Want to Put In, which is basically We Don't Want Putin. And the EBU was like, no, you can't have that song. It's obviously anti-Putin. So they got barred from entering the competition. But Jamala's song, so Jamala won with the song 1944 for Ukraine last year, apparently wasn't political enough to get banned. It was inspired by the expulsion of Crimean Tatars back in 1944 during World War II. And
Well, that's like
in
old
no
politics.
way,
Who cares about that anymore?
yeah, but it was clearly, like, referencing the current Crimean crisis. So, yeah, it was tense, and people were like, oh, it should have been banned, but it wasn't really about current political events, so it got through, and it won, and I was so happy it won, because it's actually an amazing performance. Like, it's the most artistic and most emotional. If you haven't
I
seen
quite
it, watch
enjoyed
it.
it.
Yeah, Adam enjoyed it. Have you guys seen
As
it?
someone
You should
who's
watch it.
like never interacted with Eurovision before.
Oh yeah, no, it makes me cry. Like, the chorus is inspired by Jamala's grandmother, who was one of those Tatars that was expelled, and it translates, I think, roughly to "I can't live here anymore. There's too much pain." And she's singing that at Crimean, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is so painful." And then she does these amazing vocals, just like this wailing bit where it sounds painful but also powerful. But yeah, so Ukraine won. And as the rules of Eurovision say, it's held in Ukraine this year, in Kyiv. And things have been tense between Russia and Ukraine, as you know. So Russia wanted to take back the Crimean Peninsula. They wanted to annex it, so they invaded in 2014. In 2015, Ukraine introduced a law which bans Russians from entering the Ukraine if they have entered Crimea through a non-Ukrainian border, i.e. they have entered Ukraine via Russia, as opposed to Ukraine. If you are found to have violated this law, you are banned from entering the country for the next 5 years. Now, it's very hard for the Ukraine government to keep track of everyone that's done this, but they're investigating people continuously. And they have a list of artists, which are known to not be allowed to come into the Ukraine because of this law. And Russia was kind of, offended. They probably got quite hurt that Ukraine beat them to the win. And they probably never intended to compete in this year's contest, but they wanted to make Ukraine look bad. So what happened was Russia selected an artist who wasn't on this current list of who was banned, but the list was growing continuously. When she was selected, so maybe I should talk about the artist. So the artist was, I'm trying to find her name. It's like Yuri Samalova. And I really don't want to draw attention to this, but people made a big deal out of it. She is disabled. She is in a wheelchair, and she has this degenerative disease, which, well, she loses function of the muscles. So yeah, Ukraine, being heartless, picked this person, and they want, and you know, if Ukraine bans them from coming to their country, it makes Ukraine look like they hate disabled people, but it's their laws. So yes, this artist was found to have violated the law. She had performed in Crimea in June of 2015, so she was barred from entering the country for the next 5 years. And you know, Russia's like, oh, Ukraine's being mean, you know, they should let her in for the sake of the competition. And Ukraine was like, no, it's our laws. You knew the laws, you should have picked someone else. And the one thing that annoys me is that the EBU, so the European Broadcasting Union, who run the Eurovision Song Contest, were kind of siding to try to get Russia into the competition, which, I mean, it would have been nice to help with the whole celebrate diversity and people getting past politics to come together. But, so they tried to work out some other things. One of the options was to have the Russian entry performed via satellite, but the Ukrainian law bans images of banned people in Ukraine, so that also was against the law. So
Wait, just
yeah,
flat out bans images of banned people?
well, yeah, media content. It's
what about
so
like
strange.
the internet?
I don't think they go that far. It was such a strange debacle between the two. So Ukraine didn't want to budge on their laws because, you know, it will make them look weak to Russia in general. The EBU wanted them to make an exception, let their artist in. After some time between them, you know, bickering, there was like a week of silence where no one heard any news, and then it turned out just Russia just conceded and, you know, said that they were not going to enter the competition. So I don't know if they achieved what they want to do, which is making Russia look bad, or not. You guys have any opinions on whether Russia looks bad or whether it's Ukraine that looks bad?
I mean,
I'd say Ukraine looks bad.
Yeah.
You've drawn
I don't
attention to
really know what the
Ukrainian
intricacies
laws.
But it's really interesting. Like,
There's a lot.
It kind of sounds like almost like a kindergarten or primary school sort of arguments of, you know, he said this, she said that, makes it look bad, I'm like this.
It's extremely childish.
Yeah, it sounds childish overall.
Yeah. So a lot of people compare this to back in 2012 when Azerbaijan hosted the contest. So Azerbaijan hosted the Eurovision Song Contest in 2012, and Azerbaijan and Armenia have been in this war for decades. They're fighting over this land, and Armenia blames Azerbaijan for the Armenian genocide. Azerbaijan doesn't acknowledge that. So they have laws going to the federal level banning citizens of the other country entering their country. So Armenians can't enter Azerbaijan, Azerbaijanis can't enter Armenia. But when Azerbaijan hosted the contest in 2012, they immediately said, we're going to lift this rule so Armenia can participate. And everyone thought, oh my goodness, they're going to make up and it's going to be okay. But so Armenia was initially part of it, but then they withdrew due to security concerns, which is fair enough. How that differs from the whole Russia-Ukraine thing is that Armenia and Azerbaijan had like this blanket rule for all citizens, whereas Ukraine was only banning Russians that had entered Crimea. So that's why people are saying Russia was being shitty. They could have picked someone else who didn't break this law, but they picked this artist who they knew breached this law, and they were trying to like push Ukraine to try to make an exception. I'm kind of on the side of Ukraine. I feel like they did good for standing by their laws. Any comments?
I mean, like, it's been going for a few years, the conflict and, you know, disagreements in that area, so it's kind of like there's been a lot of standoff, like, because obviously they don't really want to have a proper war or anything over there, well, some parties don't at least. So it's like, let's just be so passive aggressive that we take advantage of a singing contest or a arts festival, essentially, to vent our frustrations. That's what it sounds like.
Oh yeah, no, it's
That's kind of Eurovision is very politically charged, from what I've heard. Like, if you want to
Oh, yeah.
understand, the advice I got was if you want to understand European politics, watch Eurovision. But yeah,
yep. No,
I'll qualify my earlier statement that I think Russia's achieved their goals, and that like it was probably highly political putting forward disabled artists who would get banned, and I'd say they've achieved it because Ukraine does not look particularly flattering with laws like that discriminatory being revealed. That's hard to explain away to receptive audiences, and more to the point, a lot of the performance would have been for Russian audiences, for Russians themselves. And I'd imagine that they look, that they took it pretty well. Here's one of their stars, a star who's overcome great difficulties, and they're not even allowed into this country anymore. And they're like, oh well, they really do hate us. They really do want to get rid of all of us and our culture and the Russian speakers within them. Let's keep being enemies with them. Let's get behind Putin.
yeah, so it's been interesting. So Russia's actually, in the past, done very well in Eurovision. And some people attribute that to a large diaspora, so there's a lot of Russian-speaking countries nearby and a lot of Russians all over Europe. Or it could just be because they actually send some pretty good acts. They invest a lot into good performances, very powerful singers. It's been an interesting relationship with Russia. So in past years, it was really funny. In 2014, they brought in this anti-booing technology because people were booing Russia pretty bad in the audience, and I think that's pretty mean because it's like the artists don't. I mean, they're representing Russia as a country, but they don't represent their government. Some of the artists are pretty progressive. Like last year's artist was pretty camp, and you know, usually in Russia that would be banned. Yeah, so the relationship with Russia and Europe has been interesting, to say the least. So let me try to find the name of the artist. So she... apparently this whole thing also was good in a way in that it... so yeah, Yulia Samilova, that's her name. Her being selected and this whole debacle did raise some, awareness about disabilities and disabled people in Russia, because apparently they're not treated very well in Russia. So that was making it very public and telling people more about there are these people, we should give them more. Apparently disabled access is pretty rare in a lot of Russian buildings and cities and stuff. So there was that silver lining, I guess. Yeah, what else can I talk about concerning Russia? Ooh, yeah. I mean, I can talk about last year at work, I gave a talk about European Union membership being a litmus test of Europeanness. So Russia is not a member of the European Union. And a lot of other USSR countries are not part of the European Union, but they're trying to be part of the European Union. One of the biggest things about being a European Union membership is that you have to have laws protecting LGBTIQ people, allowing them the rights to work, stopping discrimination. And there are some countries like Azerbaijan, which was an ex-USSR country, and like Ukraine, who have been trying to get European Union membership. Now, in the case of Azerbaijan, they have these leftover laws from the USSR, which is they're kind of not imposed, but they're still there banning homosexuality. And Azerbaijan kind of wants to keep its good ties with Russia, but it also wants to look more European and also wants to be part of the European Union. It'll be better for their economy and trades and stuff. And when Azerbaijan hosts, they really want to host the Eurovision Song Contest, they built a whole new stadium for it, and they want to show off, that they're Western, basically. So there's been some arguments saying that Eurovision has been a platform where countries can do this. So there's usually been like a few years lag between countries entering the Eurovision Song Contest and then a few years later entering the EU. So obtaining EU membership takes a long time. This has happened particularly with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They all entered Eurovision in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they became part of the European Union mid-2000s.
That's a really interesting correlation.
Yeah. So there's some other. So Turkey, I think, is fighting for its membership. Ukraine has been trying to get membership. Serbia has been in the process of getting European Union membership for like a decade or something since their win. So they've been in. They have these laws left over which don't really protect LGBTIQ, but people. There's also other laws that they have to bring in to align with the European mentality of being accepting, being progressive, basically. It seems to be interesting, the whole showing the Europeanness at Eurovision and trying to be part of the European Union. But that could lead us to Brexit, yeah?
Well, I mean, this might be an extension, but do you feel that Eurovision is almost like some ways, not just emotional blackmail, but just almost like a guilt trip in doing what some other countries see as morally right?
I don't really know what you're getting at. Can you try to clarify?
So as in, like, do you think that there's some, this bunch of countries do things this way, so if you're not part of our happy club, then we're gonna basically, no inclusion until you become part of a happy club? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it kind of forces, so being part of the European Union kind of forces a cultural change, which, can cause some conflict. I mean, not all countries in the Eurovision Song Contest are EU members. You don't have to be. It's completely different, but, that is part of the European Union. You have to align with a lot of their, values. Yeah, where do we go from here? Okay, so people would saying really stupid things like, oh my goodness, can UK participate in Eurovision if they're no longer part of the EU? Yes, they can. And the UK have sent a song called I Will Never Give Up on You, or I Will Never Give Up on EU.
Okay.
See, that's political, but that's the right political.
So the song has nothing to do with the EU, but a lot of people are putting a spin on it, and it's kind of funny. But no,
they're
the UK's
technically
in it,
still
and...
EU for 2 years anyway, aren't they?
Oh yeah, no, they've initiated Article 50 and they're around for the next 2 years, yeah. And I mean, I guess the UK's kind of always hated Europe, maybe because I guess the currency is stronger than the rest of Europe. Also, they've hated Europe in Eurovision because they blame them for not doing well. Like, everyone hates the UK. I'm like, no, you just send really shitty songs. The UK used to be pretty good at Eurovision.
That's great.
They've won 5 times, which is really good for a country. And they've just sent really bad songs. But this year, they've shut up. They've become one of the favorites this year. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Anyone has any more things to talk about concerning
Thank you.
Russia and Eurovision and campness, acceptance, diversity?
It does seem, for some, I have actually seen little bits and pieces of it, highlights and that. It does seem that and this might sound really bad, but the more diversity inclusive, this is how you guys, this is the 2017 or whatever year it is, inclusiveness you can fit into the performer, it usually improves their vote, how they perform in terms of votes and scoring.
I guess it does in the way, and what the performer says itself can affect the votes. So in 2014, Armenia was one of the favorites to win before the competition, but then they said some pretty homophobic comments, and they just dropped in the favorites. that can affect it. You want it to be all about the song and the song contest because that's what it is. But some people, let that get in the way.
And even just with
But
general
apparently-
politics, I've heard, like, European relations at the time, which countries we're with, which ones we aren't. That will affect votes, historical neighbours and so forth.
So that's funny because most people, when you look at wars, most countries they fight with their neighbors. But there has been a lot of research into voting patterns, and there's like these accepted voting blocs, which are usually countries that are neighbors next to each other. So it's probably not so much a political alliance between the countries. Some people attribute it to being more cultural, like the people from these countries have very similar cultures and often similar languages. So if a country sends a song in a native tongue, then I guess most of its neighbors are probably able to also understand what the song is about.
So it's basically, Age of Empires the musical.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's been like a big trend towards English songs, and there are barely any non-English songs in Eurovision, which makes me kind of
that's
sad
sad.
because I really appreciate different languages. So Jamala last year was the first entry to win with a partially non-English song since 2007. But it still wasn't a completely non-English song, so it's been a while. But I guess people choose to sing in English because it's more accessible to everyone. But then there are some songs with really terrible English, and you're like, is it good that you sing in English to make it more accessible, or is the English not good enough that people understand it, and should you just singing a native tongue? Yeah.
Yeah, and you can probably rhyme better and be more lyrical in your own native tongue too, so it's a little struggle.
Yeah, definitely. But there's also Eurovision can be flexible as well. So the song doesn't have to. There aren't many rules about who the competitor, about the competitor. So the person who's representing the country doesn't have to be a citizen of the country. Doesn't have to be born there. And the song doesn't have to be written by a person from the country. So they're pretty flexible, and you've had some weird combinations. Like there's an Irish band represented Cyprus a few years ago. Finland entered with a Swedish song. A lot of countries now are entering with Swedish songs because half the pop songs are written, 90% of the pop songs are written by Swedish writers. Yeah. I don't know how.
It's just ABBA, is it?
Sorry?
There's continuous of ABBA, just continually Sweden is really, really good at appealing to audiences.
Yeah, no, in recent years, Sweden's been doing really well. They've won 6 times now. Probably because they have a very good selection process, like how they select their artist.
So do the French sing in English?
Surprisingly, in the last couple of years, they have sent songs partially in English. So one thing a lot of countries like to do, to still be kind of true to their country, but also be accessible, is half English and half native tongue. So yeah, France this year is half French, half English. France last year, half French, half English. The year before that, they were completely French. Yeah.
I suppose that's as much
so even-
concession as they'll get, as they'll give the English. Alright, we'll speak your language, you won. But we'll speak half our language too.
It makes me so sad, but it's been strange. So this year, a lot of the really big the favorites this year, high ranking and the odds to win, are actually non-English songs. I guess people are kind of sick of all the English songs and they're favoriting, the countries that are singing in non-English songs. So Italy is a big favorite to win. Portugal is pushed up, which I'm really happy about. Hungary has been getting a lot of support. So that makes me feel good that, people are appreciating the cultures, the different languages.
See, that's probably why Russian wins all the time, because they have a really pretty language.
It's such an aggressive language. Oh my goodness.
Nah, it all flows so nicely. Just rolls off the tongue.
Oh, it's Joe.
Hello, friends. Sorry, I'm
Hello.
late.
Hey,
That's okay. So you had some qualms about Knowlesy not representing Australia.
Oh,
Eurovision.
yeah. It's an injustice that's just been perpetrated over and over again. 2003, and I think it's about time he had his place in the spotlight.
So I did mention that Shannon Knoll was on the music jury.
Not the same
that-
thing, though, is it? Like, Guy's had his chance, right? Guy's been our rep. He did an amazing job. Like, I watched him on Eurovision the other year. Knowlesy needs a shot at it. Needs to represent Australia. He stands up for what the everyday Australian is, right?
Yeah. So
What, soul patches?
this year we're sending an Indigenous teenage boy. Is that not representative of Australia?
No.
You make it sound like he didn't have a choice, Reggie.
Well, no.
just
He
banned
was
him on the
actually-
street.
Teenage boy have a Southern Cross tat on his chest? Because if not, then he doesn't stand for me.
I don't think so. He's 17. He'll probably have to get permission from his dad. No, this year's entry is Isaiah Firebrace, who won X Factor last year. And he's Aborigine, and he's a pretty chill guy. I mean, his song's kind of meh, but I'm proud of him. But no, Shannon Knoll, being part of the music jury, has a lot of power over the voting. So I don't know if you guys know, the way that voting has worked in Eurovision has changed a lot over the past years. In the beginning, it was a jury because this was back in the 50s and they couldn't really have, live voting. It was very difficult to coordinate the first Eurovision, so it was just a jury at the concerts. It wasn't until the 90s where televotes came in, people could call and send their favorites. And then since the 90s, it's kind of bounced around between like jury, televoting, 25% jury, 50% jury. So the current way that it works is that the points given out, oh yeah, it changed last year, is a sum of the public votes and the jury votes, but the jury votes contribute 50%. So the jury kind of came in after 2006 because a lot of people were shocked that Lordi won Finland, and that was purely televote.
wait, she won Finland?
Not that
She-
naughty.
English?
Lordi, not Lord.
What?
Lordi is a Finnish metal band.
I'm sure you've seen them,
orcs.
Jesse.
How's it spelled? Isn't it spelled Lordy?
No.
Utterly different. Utterly different.
Okay.
Lord is with an E at the end. Lordi is with an I at the end.
I'm confused already. I'm sorry.
So to stop people voting for, I mean, it's a good song, Hard Rock Hallelujah, but I guess it could be considered a joke entry to make Eurovision seem more legitimate. They brought back the music jury with music professionals who also contribute to the voting significantly, and are experts in music and performance and staging. Yeah. So Knowlesy, I would say, has a lot more power being in the music jury instead of being, judged on by everyone else. Still not good enough for you, though, is it?
I mean, it just isn't
Yeah,
fair.
no. I'll be satisfied.
What about
on
him?
that stage doing his song.
Oh, that's great.
Sorry?
Yeah. And could he get away with doing What About Me on Eurovision?
No. So in Eurovision, you gotta have an original song. It had to be released, I think, within 3 months of the next. Oh no, within like 6 months of the next competition. So can't do What About Me. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. But if he was to do What About Me, but like change up a few of the lyrics.
Just sing it in Russian. Easy win.
Yeah, sing it in right.
There's no rule stopping him from doing that. Well, no, there's still rules because it's not an original song. Yeah, sorry. Also, some interesting facts about the languages. So in the beginning, there wasn't language rules because countries just wanted to sing in their own language. Then in like the 60s and 70s, more countries started singing in English. Then I guess too many countries started singing English, so the EBU introduced language rules from the 80s onward, where countries had to sing in a national language. And what happened then was that Ireland won 3 years in a row for the first time ever. Like, there had been a few countries that won twice in a row, but no one 3 times in a row. So Ireland won in 92, 93, 94, and then Norway won with a very Irish-sounding song and very few lyrics. And then Ireland won again, and then I think some other country won, and then the UK won. So you could see that forcing countries to sing in their native languages kind of made it more easier for countries with English as a national language to win. There's a few other countries that managed to win without an English song. But yeah, they took that rule away and said, you know, you can sing in your native language or in English, and then they lifted that even more, and now that you can sing in any language you want. It can even be gibberish or a made-up language. So there have been entries.
Well, I mean, it is Eurovision.
In gibberish. Yeah.
Have they won, Reggie?
The songs in gibberish? No.
Yeah.
They've been interesting though. Like, I was listening to like one of Belgium's entries, and I couldn't pick out that it was gibberish. And it was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But maybe that makes it more accessible to everyone, because you know no one understands it, so everyone has like the same interpretation. Yeah.
You don't even need to speak English, like.
Just get the song.
well, you said like much of the favourites seem to be non-English songs. So
yeah, I'm proud of that. My second favourite is Portugal, and I would be so happy if they won. They've never won before. So, yep. I don't know where to go from here. Oh, I can talk about Norway versus the EBU. Yeah, so one of the reasons why UK has gotten so terrible over the last few years is
Brexit.
Is Brexit. But no, back in 2003, they sent Gemini as their entry, and it turns out, you know, they're good in the studio because you can do lots of post-processing, but they can't sing live. So one of the hallmarks of Eurovision is that all vocals have to be live, which can make or break a performance, because if you can't perform live, people are going to know, and it's just going to be terrible. And Norway this year tried to get an exception. So music these days have been becoming more electronic, and there's a lot more vocal processing. So their song has quite a bit of vocal processing, and they tried to, you know, petition for the rule to be changed that not all vocals have to be done live. And I don't know how I feel about that. I really, like, people don't want to be a slippery slope to being able to lip sync, basically. Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, particularly if you're performing at that level, the ability to perform live, I think, is acceptable to expect.
Acceptable?
Yeah, I was trying to like, yeah, yes. Yeah, expected, yes. Absolutely.
You're competing, you're representing your country. It's acceptable if you can actually know what you're doing.
Well, here's this lovely song. And now let's skip to the one I prepared earlier.
Does that work with like heavily sort of electro techno type music though? Like, can they do that all live?
So in the year 2000, Denmark won with a song called "Fly on the Wings of Love," and at the end of the performance, the singer, one of the Olsen brothers, uses a vocoder, which kind of makes his voice a bit more robotic, but he was still singing live. So some people did petition to have that, you know, be banned, but it was allowed. So yeah, but that was something that could be done live with the microphone and stuff like that. What is happening with this song is that there's a lot of it's kind of like remixing with a DJ. And another one of the rules is that you can't have live instruments, mainly because of logistical reasons, because there's so many acts, and doing instruments live is a nightmare.
Wait, what if you're like playing a guitar though?
Oh no, they just play it and it's not plugged in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there have been a lot of
So the
entries
singers
that
have to
people
do it
just-
live, but no one else is allowed to do it live.
Yeah, basically. So there've been entries
makes
before where you
sense.
have a band and it's just the singer singing, everyone else is playing their instruments, but you can't.
So wait,
hear it.
you're
It's
telling
not
Epic
live.
Sax Guy was air saxing. He wasn't actually playing.
He was air saxing. Yeah.
Oh, life has been a
Air
lie.
saxing?
Oh, by the way, Epic Sax Guy is back this year, representing Moldova.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna watch the Eurovision for the first time in like a decade, whatever it is. Seriously, Moldova's got my vote. Moldova,
Yeah, you're
win,
in part of
please.
your place. I'm coming over.
Moldova has just got my vote no matter what. Sorry, Nolzy, or whoever is Aussie.
You can't vote for your own country, so you wouldn't be able to vote for Nolsey anyway.
Okay, that's cool.
Unless you like went to Europe and grabbed a SIM card, then you could vote for Australia, but that's really expensive.
It'd be worth it. Like, I'd do it for Nolsey. Getting what am I saying? Getting justice at last.
Yeah, because
Talk-
it is fair.
Yeah, talking about the voting, there was like some concern about how the EVU would count votes coming out of Crimea in 2015. They're like, are these votes Russian or are they Ukrainian? I don't know how to count these votes.
I mean, they're the same thing.
Not really.
In a few years' time, they will be.
I often wondered how common it is for like people to just cross the border so they can vote for their own country. I don't think it is common. It just seems too much effort.
Yeah, wait.
I mean, it's like a 10-minute drive. Who does those?
Yeah, but who drives?
Well, you gotta have a SIM card from the country, like from a different country.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how they count the votes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm struggling to think of where else this can go. Maybe we can. I'm trying to think of ways I can tie in religion into Eurovision, but I guess that will mostly go back to Russia. And
I'm just still
you know.
devastated. Epic Sax Guy is just like faking it. I'm just trying to deal with that.
So, if I remember correctly, Epic Sax Guy was just a dancer back in 2000 and whatever, when he was
Correct.
discovered. I think since then he has actually learned to play sax.
So that
So he is
this
now
time it'd
a
be for
dancer.
real?
Sorry?
This time it'd be for real then. Yes.
No, because he can't
I mean,
play
like-
sax. Remember? He's not allowed to.
Not allowed to play live instruments.
But what if he's singing through his...
He just sings in a saxophone. It's a voice-activated saxophone.
I don't think so, but like I think he's still gonna have those epic moves. You know, the whole pelvic thrust. It'll be, yeah, it'll still be good. I think actually Moldova is.
He's always been a sax player. I've looked up. He
has he?
always was a sax player, so it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like one of Moldova's biggest
Yes.
exports.
Jacob, he was faking it on the show, but he like actually does play sax.
Someone said he looks just like Duke Nukem. That's what makes him awesome. He's just like Duke Nukem with the sax.
I don't think
Sure.
Duke Nukem and awesome go together in
wrong.
the same sentence.
Oh, hush.
Go. I'll keep you healed.
I mean, unless it was, what an awesome display of sexism from Duke Nukem.
Oh, wow.
What are you getting at? I'm sorry, I didn't really follow that. Is Duke Nukem known to be very sexist?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay, right.
He's like the
Somewhat.
most sexist.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean,
It's
like,
about the
that
biggest
song-
example you can get of infantile, like, sexism and that sort of thing. Like, one of the big selling points of the game was you could pick up poo out of the toilet and throw it around.
Oh my
And you
goodness.
could draw
I didn't know
penises
that.
on things. And there was topless ladies.
Yeah,
so
it's
dumb.
like
It's that sort of game.
Duke Nukem is toxic masculinity and childishness
No,
personified.
that's oxygen deprivation to the brain.
Well, I guess one of
Sorry.
the good things is like the song that Epic Sax Guy got really famous with is kind of just about like following your dreams and stuff. So it's not that sexist. Whereas this year's song is called Hey Mama, and it's about talking to this lovely lady's mum, being like, I'm gonna look after your daughter, but I actually kind of want to get with you.
What?
Yeah, like, you know, he has a girlfriend, but he's also a hot mom. Kind of like Stacy's mom, you know.
Eurovision,
Yeah,
folks.
okay. You're really selling it for us now, Reggie. You're really selling it. Like this was. Okay.
I mean, there are some other more deep entries. So everyone's going crazy about Italy because Italy's song was apparently so deep about how everyone's enthralled in social media and they only care about Eastern philosophy to make them look more enlightened, just enough so it looks good on social media. Yeah, it's meant to be super deep and referring to this anthropology book about how humans are basically still apes and we haven't gone past those basic needs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, I heard the song and I was like, yeah, man, there's a dancing gorilla, whatever. But there have been other people going nuts about it.
You're not getting rid of me that easy.
What is this YouTube video?
Is this even real life?
What?
No,
No,
it's
it's-
as good as their song from 2010. It's trash. Why have they done this? What have they done?
Oh, you looked up, yeah, this is the song they're represent, well, they're gonna have. So this performance isn't that great because you can tell that it's all like lip synced.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me that link so I can link it later. Whatever it is.
It's in the chat.
Oh yeah, true.
The violinist just looks so bored.
Are they German?
No, they're Moldovan.
Huh.
Where is Moldova geographically? I actually don't know.
It's a really
Between
small
like
little country.
it's sort of between Ukraine and the Baltic countries.
Ah.
Like
Oh, yeah,
Macedonia,
it's like
Ukraine
right
sort of
below
area.
Ukraine.
I don't know too much about modern geology, but I sort of yeah.
Geology.
You mean geography?
Yeah, that one. I do ancient Roman stuff. Back in that days, it was all horse tribes.
Oh my goodness, sorry, that reminds me of another thing. One of the countries competing in Eurovision is the former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia. And apparently Greeks get super annoyed when you just call them Macedonia. Like, no, the real Macedonia is in Greece, you're not Macedonia. And it's in like all the YouTube
That annoys
comments.
me too.
Like, they just get...
It'll take more than that.
There is
Yeah,
no
yeah,
link at
right.
all to actual old Macedonia in modern Macedonia.
Really?
No.
Oh yeah.
All of that territory is in Greece. They were all Greek culture.
Yeah. But like...
It's like the Thracians. So, like that's modern Macedonia was that sort of area.
So geographically,
There wasn't even a
is
colony.
the modern Macedonia like not even bordering the ancient Macedonia? Because like the modern Macedonia is like just north of Greece.
Oh, it might border parts of it, but like there's
Get in there.
like all of the parts I know of Macedonia, all the important parts are within Greece. They're that sort of bit of Greece where the sea is south of you, like the you got the little peninsula bit, then you go up to the coast and it sort of curves around a bit. Most of Macedon was in sort of the north end of that curve.
Ah, interesting. So I haven't looked at the voting history to see how like Macedonia and Greece vote. There's like this pact between Greece and Cyprus though. They like almost always give each other 12 points or 10 points, which is strange because like Cyprus is half Turkish, but no one remembers that bit or speaks about that bit. But I
I
guess
thought that was Crete. Is that Cyprus as well?
Cyprus is half Turkish, half Greek.
Oh wait, no,
And
I'm
neither
thinking
side-
of Crete.
Yeah. So, no one talks about, like, apparently the Turkish side and the Greek side don't talk to each other in Cyprus. And Cyprus is, like, of their non-English songs they've sent, it's only ever been in Greek. They've never sent non-English songs in Turkish. Yeah.
Well, Turkey and Europe don't have the best, historically don't have the best relationship. I can see why that's a smart move.
Well, doesn't
Turkey
Yeah.
Turkey
kinda
and
liked
Eurovision have a
invading
complicated
Europe.
history, Reggie?
Turkey and Eurovision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So Turkey is it's a predominantly Islamic country. Not that it should make a difference because there are other countries like yeah, like Russia again, predominantly Christian, and some of their laws are pretty strict. In 2013, there was a gay kiss at the end of Finland's entry, and Turkey just ended their broadcast of Eurovision and hasn't competed since. And they
Wait, did
attribute
they
it.
like cut it partway through?
Yeah, basically. And the thing is,
Okay.
like, they knew that that was coming because all the performances are rehearsed, and you know, countries are rarely allowed to like slip in little surprises into their performances. So they knew that that was happening. And also, Sweden, in their Intermission Act, had a fake gay marriage anyway, where they had two men kissing. But yeah, no, Turkey just kind of cut its transmission and hasn't participated, and they attribute the reason for them not participating in Eurovision to disdain with the voting mechanisms of Eurovision.
Wow. So
I mean,
my
the
brief
voting
comment
mechanisms aren't gay kissing though. It's like your presenter must go gay kiss the country that you want to give your votes to.
More to say dominance. But no, like on my previous statement, where I'm like, this sounds like a you know, early primary school schoolyard sort of, you know, argument slash popularity contest. It's just like there's a lot of that.
That's just
Well, I
modern
guess they don't-
politics. And
Yeah.
Asian
I guess-
politics too, sort of, but bloodier.
I guess, you know, Turkish culture just doesn't really align with European culture, which, yeah. I mean, it's happening in a whole lot of other countries as well, where various cultures don't align and you get this friction.
But Reggie, I want to see Nolzy go gay kiss all the European people who he's giving votes to.
But are they gay or are they just European?
Call back.
Call back to the
think
joke
that
I
was on
unfortunately
air, right?
wasn't able to start with. No, I missed it.
Damn it. If you'll listen to our previous episode, viewers, the
my
one
goodness.
that can't possibly go to air,
Like, it wasn't recorded, there is no previous episode.
I know.
I just missed our joke. I should really just... Oh yeah, I found out the other day I don't actually have software that can cut videos, which is really annoying. I was gonna say, I should just record, like, from the moment we show up, and then cut it when we start, but... Yeah, can't do that.
I mean, surely
Really?
there has to be some open source software for that.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, that's could be able to like cut together videos with some simple software. And I'm just thinking back to how terrible the AV people were at the opening ceremony of Eurovision on Sunday night. Yes. They were playing the wrong songs for the wrong artists. And the hosts were terrible. So what do you think the point of a host is for any show?
Hype up the crowd,
To look pretty.
and introduce
Hype.
and smooth things.
Yeah, basically, you know, and when you're talking to a person, they're meant to like, you know, ask questions about the person and have like very smooth segues between things. These hosts for the carpet were so bad. They were like cutting off the person they were talking to have like a stupid joke, or like being
So like I
kind
do.
of slipping into dead ends. And it was just it was pretty bad. But apparently the hosts for the opening ceremony aren't the same as the hosts for the actual Eurovision Song Contest. They seem like much better hosts. And it's hard to do these podcasts without cutting people off because, you know, we don't have those social cues that we get with the
Well, also,
present.
we have like a 10-second delay,
It's not
which I
that
don't,
much.
so you'll hear the recording from my end when I interrupt, but other people just sort of come in at the same time.
Huh.
Yeah,
Well,
man,
I mean,
I
that's
thought
something I think we've gotten better at over time.
It's
As
true.
I just cut someone off, so... Point moot.
yeah, I'm really struggling. I'm sorry. Like, usually I can talk for hours about Eurovision, but
Reggie,
I'm
you
trying to
have
keep
been
it.
doing a pretty
Yeah.
good job of talking.
I
Yeah,
no,
no.
but
I
I'm
half
trying to
expected
bring
us to have to
points.
stray elsewhere. Well, we've
I'm
got
trying
like
to
an
bring
hour
up
and
points
12
so you
minutes.
guys can contribute.
But no,
What
you've
do you
certainly
think-
made quite a lot of contribution.
Yeah. So, like, well, what do you guys? What were your impressions of Eurovision, or what is your understanding of Eurovision before
My
all the things
housemate
I
holds
said?
a party.
I've known people who hold parties. I saw a video once. It was dudes who looked like they were dressed like Predator extras. Their song was pretty
So,
cool though.
At
And I
college,
think
there
I've heard of
were a
that
few guys
Lordy
that did
dude
it.
before.
Wait, which? You mean the band, Jesse?
Not the British chick, the Finnish rap band.
She's
They're
New
not
Zealand.
Jesse, they're a hard rock band that perform in monster costumes. It's
They
not
were
just one
probably
dude, it's
the-
a whole band.
Let me
You would
find
know
out.
A band is a person. But no, they were probably the dudes I'm thinking of who looked like Predator extras.
Yeah,
That would
actually,
fit quite
yeah,
well.
no, that would, yeah.
Yeah, they're like
Makes
a
sense.
budget gua.
Yeah, they won back in 2006, which is over 10 years ago. Oh my goodness. Oh, I was thinking back to like another sociological paper that I read, which is this interesting case study. Sociology is interesting the way they go about their research. So the person looked at the case of Serbia winning in 2007 with Molitva. The artist that won was queer. She came out much later that she was lesbian because of Serbian laws and tensions with LGBTIQ people. But it was pretty obvious that her performance was rather queer. And they're comparing that to Austria's win with Conchita Wurst, who's... You guys should know who Conchita Wurst is, yeah?
Nope.
Yeah, the beard lady?
Yes! The case study was looking at voting patterns and people's reactions to the win. And one of the, I guess, key points that they drew is this mentality that Europe has of the other, and kind of seeing Eastern Europe as not quite European, seeing them as, like, you know, behind, you know, progressively. So when Molitva won in 2007, it was completely popular votes, and it's a beautiful song. And there was a backlash saying that it was all due to political voting, you know, bloc voting. Because of all these countries in the East having these pacts, there's no way a Western country could possibly win. So they brought in the jury again to try to, like, balance out and go against this bloc voting, which is not really a thing. And then in 2014, Conchita Wurst won with a combination of, you know, combination of public votes and jury votes, and it was praised a lot. But also previously that year, like a few years before that, I think it was Russia. Maybe it was Russia or Norway. I think it was Russia. Won. So Russia won in 2009 with the combination of jury and public vote, and that wasn't praised. That was still seen as a bad thing. So in the case of Russia, people were saying the jury was a terrible thing because they're still biased and it shouldn't be used. But then in the case of Conchita Wurst, people were saying the jury was a great thing because it was stopping political voting and stopping, you know, Eastern countries from winning. So they argued that, yeah, this was kind of showing that a lot of the Western European countries don't really accept Eastern European countries and still see them as the other and not quite European. There was a few other interesting case studies, but that one really stuck with me.
Seems accurate from what I know of Europe.
Oh yeah, no, like apparently I hear in, you know, UK people hate Polish people. They're like coming in and doing their nursing jobs and cleaners and stuff like that. That's like their opinion of Eastern Europe.
Yeah, as
Poland's
was the
quite
biggest
separate.
motivator behind Brexit too, was foreign labourers.
Yeah. But I guess the dividing line of where, so I think some people consider the Czech Republic as Eastern, even though it's pretty central and right next to Germany, but Austria is Western. Yeah. There's actually also just more countries in the east of Europe.
Yeah.
So of course they have a higher chance of winning because there's just more of them.
So I think Czech Republic might have Slavic roots, like as in Slavic people, whereas
Yeah.
say Austria is German.
Yeah, that would probably be like the distinction between East and West. Yeah. So some people are still trying to like get past that mentality of Eastern Europeans being lesser, which is not cool. But
Yeah.
Estonia's song, one of the lines is like, this Western kind of love, Western kind of, like, they themselves are referring to, you know, Westerners being different to them. But I think, you know, on a global scale, they're still pretty Western culturally.
They're still white, right? That makes them Western.
Yeah, they're
Well,
pretty right.
But they're the wrong white. Actually, I say that. But
Oh well.
I remember reading about people complaining about The Witcher for it being white and not having black people. I'm like, dude, they're Polish people. How many Poles? Actually, you see a lot of Poles in games because of World War II. But still, it's like it's not medieval Britain, guys. We don't have to look like America with like 30% black people. There's plenty of races here. You have Poles, you have Germans, you have I don't know if you have Russians. You have Scandinavians. You've got a whole bunch of Europeans there. You've even got Romani stand-ins, which is super rare. But
Yeah,
no,
talking about
apparently it was
race.
racist.
The most of
Well,
Europe
we
is
had this
white.
discussion, Jesse, in that it's just the climate that The Witcher 3 came out in.
Also, all
It's
white
pretty
people are
cold.
the same.
This reminds me of some other things. Yeah, so Europe is mostly white, but there have been non-white people to compete. So Portugal was the first country to send a black man to represent their country. Norway had an African woman representing them, singing a song which was partly in Swahili. That was very interesting. But Ukraine a few years ago had a black woman, Gitana, represent them with the song Be My Guest. It was a great song. But there was some backlash from some of the PMs, the members of parliament, saying that she wasn't organically representative of Ukraine. Basically saying she wasn't white, so she can't really represent the Ukraine. It was quite stupid. Like, she grew up in, like, she wasn't born in the Ukraine, but she spent most of her life in the Ukraine, and she also represented the Ukraine in some sports. I think it was table tennis. And then she was representing the Ukraine in the song contest, so she identifies as Ukrainian, but some people were like, nah, you're not really Ukrainian because you're black.
People are funny, hey.
Yeah.
Like, you can represent us at the Olympics for table tennis, but you just can't sing.
Yeah. It
It's
was,
just
I
like,
think,
okay.
I mean, they are
The
different
Hungary's-
though. I can, like, one is you are representing our culture, like our cultural achievements, and the other is our sporting achievements. Like, one is
Yeah.
a physical shared thing with all humans, but the other is
bad
different a
racism,
bit.
Jesse. It's still really bad.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not racist, but I can see the difference between Olympics and Eurovision in that regard.
I mean, you're right. You may represent the culture of them being actually good at sport instead of being, like, last place. So yeah, true. I can see that point. I mean, if they're culturally terrible at sport, then you should probably uphold that. Sarcasm.
So Hungary's entry this year, it's sung in Hungarian, but also a Romani language. So that the artist is Roma, or a gypsy, and they're one of the most discriminated against groups in the whole of Europe. And it's going to be interesting how, you know, people respond in Eurovision. Do we have Roma in Australia? Not really. Just a European kind of
I mean,
group,
it's a
isn't it?
Down in
Rural Queensland.
They grow tomatoes.
Oh my goodness.
I spent a night in Rome.
Yes. You get what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, gypsies.
Yeah.
Except not, because that's the racist name for them, I think.
Yeah. I think gypsies is a derogatory term. Joao, my partner, apparently didn't realise that, because everyone in Portugal calls them gypsies. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a derogatory term. But I guess some gypsies refer to themselves as gypsies, but I guess the term is Roma. That's what you want to use.
I think that's the same as the phrase, like, you've been gypped or I've been gypped, which
Yeah,
is like
Yeah.
a racist phrase,
Yeah.
which I had no idea. It's not a phrase that I ever used, but it's certainly a phrase I'd heard. And growing up in Australia, that just wasn't something that occurred to me.
Yeah. But I'm keen for Hungary's entry. It's a very emotional song, very powerful, and I am going to vote for it. And I hope other people in Europe like it.
All right. And that's been quite a lot on Eurovision.
Yeah, I'm surprised I could talk so long about Eurovision. Oh my goodness.
No, you're not, Reggie.
No, I actually am. Because no one's given me this opportunity to talk for so long. So
Well, I mean, we've only been going for just over an hour, and you had your whole hour presentation last year. What was it?
It
An
was
hour?
40
or did you
minutes.
have
It was 40
Oh,
minutes.
40 minutes. Okay.
yeah. I'm going to like toss together a very simple like 20-minute presentation this year. It's just going to be about like Ukraine, Russia, like I just discussed, about Norway and integrity of having live vocals. Maybe I'll try to talk a little bit more about United Kingdom and Brexit, but that's kind of hard to tie in. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Yeah, no, I learned a lot more than that. I didn't realise a lot of the intricacies in politics and just good arguments about it. It was really interesting.
Still feel personally victimised that no of you isn't representing us, but
Well, okay, so there have been rumours. So previously Australia's entries have been all internally selected. Basically SBS just goes to Sony and like they're just like, give us an Australian artist and they'll represent us. But there have been rumours that we're going to have our own competition to select our representatives. So maybe Nolsey will enter that and everyone can vote for him.
he'd be the people's chief straight up. There's no way that I mean, they'd probably try and rig it against him, but we'll fight the injustice.
I'd love
Well,
it
it
if they do
depends.
that, then out of
Also
nowhere they make
funny.
Guy Sebastian the actual representative.
Guys competed though.
They've already done that.
And he can compete again. There have been people that compete.
No, I mean, yeah, my point was that he has actually done it though.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't we only
Yeah,
been in
did
it?
really
Is this our
well.
third time, Reggie?
This is our third time, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends with the selection whether it's going to be completely public vote or whether there will be a jury. You know, we'll see how it goes.
All right. And that's been our talk on Eurovision. See you all next time, in 2 weeks' time.
Catch you then.
I'm
Good
keen.
fortnight, folks. Unless you're in America,
Later.
at which point you don't understand the phrase.